Welcome back to Website and TV. I'm Gemma Houghton. Today I'm joined by James McLoughlin, who's the Technical SEO Manager at online eyewear retailer Mister Spex. Today we're going to be talking about SEO for e-commerce sites. Hi James, thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So what do you think are the biggest differences between managing SEO for an e-commerce site as opposed to a non-e-commerce site?
One of the major challenges, obviously, with e-commerce sites, often you have thousands upon thousands of products, and the key challenge for us as SEOs for e-commerce is making sure that Google is able to crawl and index these thousands and thousands of products. Obviously, there's an awful lot of particularly long tail potential within these products, users looking for the specific item. Mm-hmm. So if Google can't find these products, then that's a lot of untapped potential. So for us, we want to make sure that Google can crawl and index all of these products. And so on the other side, we need to make sure that Google isn't crawling, isn't indexing URLs that have little to no SEO mm-hmm. value. And Gary Ilias wrote in a post for the Google Webmasters blog recently about crawl budget mm-hmm. and how we can maximize crawl budget and use it efficiently. And he listed the issues that we find on websites that the kind of the main wasters of crawl budget, and the top issue was faceted navigation. So mm-hmm. Filters and sorting features that we present to users to allow them to find the best products. So obviously you can use the robots.txt file to instruct Google not to follow these URLs. Mm-hmm. You can use the parameters function in Search Console, or you can use a more robust and comprehensive solution like a post redirect get pattern for your filter URLs. Mm-hmm. And all this can make sure that Google isn't crawling the URLs that have no value and is only focusing on the important URLs, like your product pages, your category pages, your main content pages.
Yeah. And then how do you determine, you've mentioned several ways there that you can get around that issue. How do you decide which option to choose? Are there pros and cons for all of them?
Often it comes down to your resources.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, tweaking your Search Console parameters or adding a line to your robots.txt file is quite an easy, quick fix. If you have more resources in your tech team, then implementing a post redirect get pattern is the best way to do it, because it means that Google isn't able to find the filter URLs altogether, whereas with robots.txt or mm-hmm. search parameters, Google is still able to find them. You just need to rely on Google not crawling them and following your instructions, which isn't always the case. So definitely a PRG pattern is the best solution, but it's not definitely always the most labor-intensive solution from an IT perspective.
So at least there's options if that's not possible. You can still manage to do something. And from a navigation point of view, obviously, like you said, that can be a biggest problem from a Google perspective. It's also really important for users to have a very clear and easy to follow navigation. But with so many pages often getting added in e-commerce sites, that can be something, again, that's a bit of a challenge. How do you make sure that you keep a really clean and structured navigation system?
Well, the first thing you can do, obviously, is add pagination to your product listing pages. Yeah. So obviously, if you have thousands of pages, you want to make sure that the user can kind of understand that, and using pagination is a great way to categorize it to make it easy for the user to navigate. Mm-hmm. And also it is a good way to make sure that the search engines can kind of understand the pages and the structure of your product listings. Yeah. Also, you can obviously use more categories, and you can use subcategories to reduce the number of products that a user sees, because obviously too many products, and we've seen this with A/B tests, can be overwhelming almost to users and can have an impact on conversions. So by using smart categories and subcategories and paginating, you can help the users and the search engines navigate easily between all the products and the types of products that you have on your site. Yeah,
because I guess it works the same for both the users and search engines. If they're overwhelmed by content, they won't be able to find what they're looking for and won't be able to pick out the rest.
Exactly, and this is why Google is always telling us to optimize for humans, not robots, because if it's something that's user-friendly and it's something that a user is able to work with pretty easily, you can probably assume that the robots are going to have a simple time with it as well.
And then another problem with e-commerce sites is duplicate content, because there's so many variations and different options for the same kind of product. So how can you handle that to make sure that you're not having products being indexed unnecessarily and blocking up your search results?
Well, actually, this was the second point that Gary Ilias made. Mm-hmm. The first being faceted navigation as the biggest waster of crawl budget. The second being on-page duplicate content. Mm-hmm. So obviously you can use things like canonical tags if you have products that are very similar. If it's, for example, just a difference in the number of items in a package, then you can use, and you have different URLs for those, then you can use the canonical tag to make sure that Google is only presenting the the canonical version that you want it to present. You can also use, for example, schema. So there's the is similar to schema that a lot of e-commerce shop owners are using now. So if you have products of different colors, or if you have, for example, I saw a music shop that had, if they had different versions of the same album, so it was vinyl or a special edition or the original edition, they would use this schema to basically link this chain of similar but not exactly the same products. And this helps Google understand where you have products that are similar but not the same, and to make sure that the kind of the similarities aren't interpreted as duplicate content.
Yeah. And how important then are like the rich snippet idea and schema, you know, when you're actually for e-commerce products, how much should you be implementing those in general across the website?
Well, Google and with the schema.org setup, it's been so easy for webmasters to mark up absolutely everything and anything. Yeah. And this is really exciting for marketers, because now we can basically communicate directly to the search engines and explain, you know, where you have products, where you have local businesses, where you have, you know, things from like land masses even you can mark up. So marketers really need to be using this to explain what the content is.
It's almost a wasted opportunity if you're not using it.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, the fact that there is multiple ways to implement it. You have microdata, you have JSON. Google's given webmasters with different levels of access to their pages, with different kind of technical resources, a way to implement schema.org markup, regardless of how their website is set up. So it really is a missed opportunity for marketers if you aren't using this data.
And then what about internal linking? Because that's something else that's quite important. What role does that play, and how do you kind of find a way to make that scalable and have a logical linking structure?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge issue, and I think you can use the most obvious points like the top navy, the footer, but also if you have a blog, if you're writing a lot of content, then you can create a really nice contextually relevant linking structure from different types of content to your product pages, to your category pages, and we're also seeing e-commerce sites now much more often using contextually relevant footers, which is a really smart way to do this. For example, if you're on Zalando, the fashion retailer website, and you're looking at women's jackets, at the bottom you'll see links to subcategories for, you know, bomber jackets, ski jackets, this kind of thing. You know, if you're in men's shoes, likewise you see links in the footer that are pointing to like smart shoes, trainers, high tops, these kind of things. And it's a really good way of presenting items in the footer that are relevant to the user based on their current page, but also it's a smart way of presenting links to and from contextually relevant content.
And how much value do you think that adds in terms of from a search engine point of view?
I think it's definitely something worth looking into, because traditionally sometimes people have seen the footer as kind of just a link dump, and that's not a good way to see it. But I think if you're using it in a smart way with contextually relevant links, and you're using it to kind of deep link for these more longer tail queries, it's definitely a smart way to do it. And Google can understand where you have, it can understand the chain of content. If you have, as I was saying, for example, with Zalando, if you have the women's jacket page linking one step deeper to the subcategories, then it really presents Google a smart structure.
And an easy way to navigate through
Definitely,
it.
yeah.
And then what about an international side of things? Because Mister Spex is available, I think, in about 10 markets, so that's a lot of different languages and other factors to consider. What extra kind of challenges does that bring from geo-targeting and other perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing for e-commerce marketers to consider, and the biggest issue or the biggest challenge is where you have, for example, with Mister Spex, you have the three DACH markets. We have Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, but we only have two websites for those. We have the German website and we have the Swiss website. Okay. So using hreflang, you can indicate to Google that the German version of the German website should be presented to the users in Germany and Austria, and that the users in Switzerland to see the Swiss website. And you can add hreflang for all the countries that you operate in, but really it's a major issue when you have, like Mister Spex, where you have a website that's targeting users in different countries of the same language, or if you have users in the same country with different languages. For example, in Belgium you have Flemish and you have French, and this is where hreflang is really, really useful to help you make sure that your users are seeing the correct and the most relevant content for them.
Because if you, getting that bit wrong is going to really damage your conversion.
Yeah, definitely. And this is something we see over and over again, that marketers are implementing incorrectly, and you lose out on a lot of custom if people go to your website and they're seeing the wrong language, they're seeing the wrong country. It's a bad user experience from the get-go.
And there are, you've already talked about quite a lot of different things to consider, different issues that can arise. So there's a lot to be doing, and there's a lot that therefore can, I guess, go wrong. So how do you audit your website and put checks in place to make sure that all of these things, to flag any issues you've got, to see where you're missing opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, the first protocol has to be the Google tools. I mean, we have a pretty big toolbox at our disposal as webmasters, thanks to Google, and these are they're very useful tools. And secondly, I think you need a strong crawling tool. For example, something like Botify or Disto. These are really powerful crawling tools that really allow SEOs to get under the bonnet of a website. And particularly if you have a big website with tens of thousands, 100,000, even millions of pages, both these crawlers are able to handle that and to allow webmasters to see issues like internal linking issues, redirect issues, site performance problems. You can quickly and easily identify these issues with these tools. And finally, I think that the one thing that many marketers in e-commerce aren't using but should be is the server log files, because all of these tools, the visibility tools, the crawlers, they're all based on a software company's interpretation of what visibility means, or what the Googlebot does. But if you have the server log files, then you can really see exactly where Google is going on your website. Are the pages that they shouldn't be finding that they are, or the other way around? Are they not finding pages they should be? Is there a particular category of your website that Googlebot is spending too much time in? And then from there, you can really come up with a strategy for internal linking, for crawlability that can make sure that Googlebot is only finding the pages that you want them to see, and spending time in the areas of your website that are most relevant and most valuable.
Great. Well, thank you very much, James. Loads of great, useful tips and insights there.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks.